Hello, Seeker Nation. Yes, that is you. I am your host, Joey Dirte. You are on my channel, Go With Joe. In this episode, we take our vintage 1985 BJ60 turbo diesel Landcruiser to the North Georgia mountains, where we go on a Bigfoot expedition. We hunt down the Sasquatch on trails, Blood Mountain, Blue Ridge, and the museum. As we come to a conclusion at the end, are you a believer or are you not a believer? Also in this episode, if you hang in there to the end, you're gonna see some funny outtakes, but also you will get a link so that you can bid on this 1985 turbo diesel. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe and ring that bell to stay up to date with current notifications on when we release new content on 4x4 adventures that we take across the nation in vintage 4x4s. At the end of this video, you will also see a sneak peek into our next release. So hang in there and let's jump into this episode. So we're gonna go inside and see if there's any recent sightings. So we have two areas here. This area is in Dahlonega, Georgia. It's near Ranger Camp, mountain phase of United States Army Ranger School. Several sightings out that way. It's actually a helicopter crash that they talk about inside. It's pretty neat. Second area is over here. It's kind of Blood Mountain area. In Lumpkin County, where Dahlonega is, but also White County, which is Cleveland, Helen area. I believe the Helen City Police actually got something unexplained on camera on their dash cams one night. It's a pretty interesting video. If you go on YouTube, you can check that out. So yeah, we're gonna set up in one of these two areas and see what we can find. So, vintage cruiser, Georgia mountains. These are the dirt roads that you grew up on as a kid, am I correct? Yep. You said we're on Dick's Creek, looking for Sasquatch, riding the roads that you grew up on as a kid. What is some of the history of sightings in this area that you know of?
There's lots of campsites and stuff on this area, so there's lots of reports of rocks being thrown and campers. Lots of screaming in the woods, things like that.
So like kids screaming, teenagers screaming, or is it like a howl?
Like whooping. There's been some like screaming recordings up here, but I personally think that those recordings are mountain lions.
So we're here with the owner of the Sasquatch Museum Expedition in Blue Ridge, Georgia, David. Tell us, how long have you been in business and what made you want to start the Bigfoot Museum?
The museum's been here about 5 years now. I think it'd be 5 years this coming February. And we started it because when we moved here 7 years ago, we noticed there was a real lack of family activities up here, things to do inside, either in the heat of the summer or it's pretty cold up here during the winter time. I kept wishing somebody would open something up here, and finally we just kind of put our heads together about what we knew about Bigfoot, and we knew a lot of people were interested in it, but we didn't know there were going to be this many people interested in it. and put a few sketches down, and this building came up for rent, and we looked around. It was in rough shape, but we probably spent about 3 months getting it up, and started with about half the exhibits we have now, and over the past 5 years we've just built it into what it is now.
Great. So do you and your wife have any experience personally with Bigfoot and Bigfoot sightings?
So sure, before, I've been into Bigfoot since I was 12, and I'm a investigator with the BFRO, was in Florida, and I moved up here to Georgia. I've been on many expeditions, private and public, on-site investigations, spend the night in people's backyards that are having activity. So I've been doing this for a long time. And like all of my friends are Bigfooters. Everybody I know in the whole world is into Bigfoot in one respect or another, either as witnesses or fellow investigators. So I've pretty much been living, eating, breathing this since I was a kid. Growing up in South Florida, I was fascinated by the stories of the Florida skunk ape. So yeah, it started real young.
Chris and I are out on our own Bigfoot expedition. We are chasing Bigfoots in a 1985 Toyota Landcruiser turbo diesel. And we want to know, are they more aggressive in certain times of the year than the other?
So that's a good question, because we tend to put these things in a category like an animal, where we all know mountain bears can be dangerous, and we all know no matter what you see, if you ever see a bear, you know it can be dangerous. And these things are really more like people. And I'm saying that because their behavior just covers the whole spectrum. Like they can either be, there's plenty of stories of them helping lost children, injured hikers, and then it goes right to the end where the Native Americans talk about them eating people. So I think it's almost like walking in either downtown LA or Detroit at night. You just never know who you're going to run up on. So it just behooves you to pay attention, and some are good and some are bad. It's just like people, really.
Do they have a mating call? What is the form of communication that is most commonly heard in this area of the Ridge in North Georgia for the local Sasquatch population?
So I just had a lady email me 20 minutes ago. She's got a picture of one looking at her house over on the Etowah River. It just really never stops like that. People get pictures of them, and they get recordings of them making all kinds of sounds. So do they hoot? Yes. Do they whoop? Yes. They whistle. They'll try to emulate an owl. People will say, this thing was trying to sound like a coyote, but I knew it had to be a 1,000-pound coyote. And then they'll mimic human voices. If you're yelling at your friend over and over again, you may hear your buddy yell your name, but it's all of a sudden in a really deep, raspy voice. So they can emulate and copy mimic any animal out there just about. But when you hear it, you know it's coming from a big voice box, a big chest. So in reality, there's all kinds of sounds they can make, including horrifying roars that just shake your guts. People, that's always know when you're talking to somebody legit, because they say, it shook my insides, just turned me to jelly. And a lot of people say when you hear a roar or growl, and they say if this person didn't say I almost crap my pants, then they're probably lying, because people say when you hear it, it's a horrifying sound.
And is there a mating season? What do we know about the mating rituals or habits?
Let's face it, there are. I would surmise that their gestation period and mating is just like ours, right? I don't think there's a season for them. I think it's whenever the opportunity arises, right? There are stories of females taking male either loggers or hunters or trappers back in the day, taking these guys prisoners. Muckalot Harry was one of them. I think that happened in Alaska. And there's a couple other ones and there was one recent on Sasquatch Chronicles not too long ago, where a female had moved in on a single hiker, didn't grab him, but it had him backed up against a wall, and he fired a weapon, and she finally ran off. But she ran off, but she kept coming back during the night, like she didn't want to give up. This guy was terrified. So there's no doubt, I think, that these things can mate with humans. and males with females and females with men, you know, mixing the race up, mixing it up. So I think there's probably a lot more to be explored about that question than either I'm prepared to answer, or I don't really know anybody that's prepared to answer that with any real expertise, but that is a very interesting topic unto itself.
I wonder if like Hacksaw Jim Duggan might be half Bigfoot.
Huh, that's a good question.
Best advice for Sasquatch hunters. What would you give us to going out into the wild tonight, into the wilderness for the next 2 days? What is the best advice you can give us?
Actually, it's be obvious. Be obvious that you're out there, but don't be obvious that you're looking for them, because almost 99% of the witnesses I talk to aren't looking for them. They're just driving their Jeep up at night. And I'll tell you, some of the best places is up at Cooper Creek in Sasquatch, Georgia, and also just north of Helen in the Upper Chattahoochee campgrounds. Had a guy there who actually tried to snatch his Jeep off the trail one night. He had one of those little Suzuki Samurais, and he was a huge hander reached out and was grabbing for his bumper, and he said, my headlights lit it up. This thing was actually going for my car. It was like a chimpanzee hand, but it was way bigger than any hand he's ever seen. It was actually reaching for his car, reaching for his bumper. He said, I don't know if he's going to try to yank my little Jeep off the road, but yeah, so really just drive around making sounds. Don't even try to be quiet, because I think the sound of you brings them to you. Trying to sneak up on one, wow, really it's just going to be a waste of time. They know you're there, and I think by acting really almost either as dumb or uncluded as possible, it gives you the best possibility of a run-in with one of them.
Absolutely perfect. We're going to be off and running to our next stop, and that is our campground. So we're going to go look for a place to camp. Would you like to see a 1985 Landcruiser?
Love to.
So Dave, 1985 Landcruiser. You being from Florida, this is where we picked this up. We found this guy. What were some of the things going on in your life in 1985?
I was in the military. Yeah, I was stationed in Key West, Florida at the Hydrofoil Squadron. So yeah, it was a good time of my life.
Do you remember the Toyota Landcruiser at all?
Absolutely.
So we'll have this guy up for sale on eBay. At the end of this episode, we will launch it, and we will direct you guys in the description below. You will find a link to our eBay page, and we're gonna get on the road and get to our campsite.